Hey guys, this is Ryan Desmond from CodingNomads. Good morning. This morning we're going to be talking about our upcoming Java coding bootcamp in Playa del Carmen, Mexico with CodingNomads instructor Roy. And he's going to be joining the call here in just a moment. So just give us a second while we get set up. This is a second attempt here. We might run software engineering courses, but we're still getting used to Facebook Live. So what you see behind me, just so you guys know while we wait for Roy to join, is what we call our memory boards. In class, as we go through new topics and we cover new concepts, we like to just write them down on a piece of paper. So because we move through stuff so fast in class that it's nice to write it all down and just be able to look up on the wall and remember those all the topics that we've covered, sometimes 10, 20 a day. So I see Roy here. Let's see if I can add you in there, Roy. All right, Roy, you're officially invited.
Hello.
Hey, Roy.
Okay.
You see me and hear me all right?
Yeah. Good morning.
Good evening for you. So, Roy, you're in Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
What time you got there?
I cannot hear you very well. Can you repeat, please?
What time is it there now?
Yeah, it's 6 p.m.
6 p.m. All right, nice.
And
We kind of joke with
quite hot
live
here.
events. Quite hot.
Yeah.
Nice. We joke a little bit with these live events that it's kind of like coffee and cocktails because it's 9 a.m. here, 6 p.m. there. So we're drinking coffee, you're having cocktail. Cool. So what we're going to do here is just discuss our upcoming course in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. It's a Java server-side software engineering course. CodingNomads is a company that teaches software engineering development courses all around the world in a variety of languages, and kind of our staple go-to course that we have been teaching for the last 2 years has been a course that's specifically focused on server-side engineering with Java and all the things that go into that, such as using the command line, using Git and GitHub, using project management tools, understanding Java, understanding frameworks within Java like the Spring framework, working with databases, and then deploying our applications to servers using things like AWS, EC2, and stuff like that. And Roy, currently in Barcelona, is a new instructor with CodingNomads, and he's going to be the lead instructor for our upcoming course in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, which we're thrilled about. It's actually our second time going down to Playa del Carmen. We went down at the same time last year, and the whole experience was just incredible. The co-working space is great. Playa del Carmen was amazing. The food is some of the best in the world, and the kind of fun stuff that you get to do in the evenings and the weekends, like with the cenotes and the snorkeling and the just all the Mayan ruins and everything. It's a wonderful location for a course. And so today we just wanted to make ourselves live and available for any of you that might be interested in asking some questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. And we've got a couple questions that we've gotten over the past couple weeks that we just wanted to discuss. And so, Roy, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Kind of tell us about your experience first. How about that?
Okay, so yeah, I studied some programming in my home region in Galicia, actually in my hometown. It was like a 2 years course, like well, some course that is here in Spain, and I really liked that. So I decided after that to join the university, the software engineering university. So it was a really nice time, and I learned a lot. And in the last year, I was doing Erasmus traveling, so it was like studying abroad. It was really nice experience. I really loved that.
Nice.
And
Where did you do that?
yeah, it was in Poland, in Krakow.
Okay, right. Nice.
So you are studying, and at the same time you are having fun, discovering new culture, and traveling. That's really nice.
Right.
And yeah, after that, I just searched for a job, and I stayed there, and I was working as a software engineer in Motorola Solutions there, and it was quite nice. Uh, After a couple of years there, I moved to Barcelona. I work in a small company, and then I moved to another company that I am now. It's InfoJobs, but it's a group of shifted. So it is. I'm working there as well as a software engineer, programming the web page, the Android application, and so on. Working in some teams, and yeah, it's really nice job.
Nice. So, tell me a bit, everybody has their own, but for me, when I learned how to write software, write code, and, build software, it kind of had this kind of revolutionary effect on my life and my ability to work on cool projects and get cool jobs and also a bit of this kind of ability to kind of move around or live anywhere. Like for instance, with the various companies that you've worked at in different companies or different countries. So for you, what's one of the main, like if you were talking to a friend and they were like, why should I learn how to code? Why should I learn how to code? What would you say?
Well, the solving problems, I guess, it's like you have a problem, you don't know what to do with that, so you need to investigate, you need to get some data, you need to know what do you really want, and then you have to make from scratch some solutions. So you have to really think about how you can build something, and you don't have sometimes you don't have even any ground, so you have to design everything, like the interaction with the user, with you have to do the performance and how to solve the problem in a computer. Uh, yeah, more or less it's like problem solving as well. You have like ability to travel, or it's quite easy to find a job anywhere in the world right now as a Java developer. So when I moved from Poland to, or when I wanted to find a job in Poland, even without any experience, just studies, so it was quite easy. And after that, I moved to Barcelona, and it was really easy. So that's as well a nice advantage about being a Java developer.
Right.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
One of the things I always, to me, I just think it's pretty incredible the kind of the way that the economic mobility and opportunity that learning how to become a software engineer provides, right? So once you know these skills and you're confident in your ability to solve these problems, and I think you nailed it on the head right there too when you talked about problem solving. That was one of the reasons I really fell in love with writing the code, writing code, learning how to code is I've been working with my hands for a long time, building houses, art, landscaping, bartending, doing all these things. And I was yearning for to work with my mind a little bit more, right? And to solve these puzzles and problems. And as soon as I started coding, I realized that it was basically just like one puzzle after another, after another, after another. And so
Exactly.
if you're someone who likes puzzles and solving challenges and problems, then I always say software engineering is perfect because you never ever run out of puzzles and challenges. If you're not someone that likes solving puzzles and challenges, honestly, software engineering is probably not great for you because it's all it is a never-ending line of puzzles and challenges that you need to solve. But cool. So um, tell us about kind of what you think about Java, or like if someone was thinking about what programming language should I learn, and they're thinking about server side, so we can talk about client side or server side too, but let's just talk about server side right now. So let's say somebody wants to become a software engineer and they're thinking about learning a server side language. Why Java? Why do you write Java? Why would you potentially recommend someone learn Java first?
Well, it's kind of really extended language, so there are a lot of jobs for Java. But besides that, it's quite an easy language. It's easy to write, easy to read. It has some code that is. There are some languages now that are shorter, but doesn't mean that they are better.
Right.
And you can run it in any platform. So it has this Java virtual machine where all the Java code is run. So it doesn't matter in which system it is. So that makes it very good and like for adapting to any place that you want to deploy it to run the programs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's evolving. There is a lot of community behind that. So yeah,
Yeah.
mainly these are the good
Yeah,
points.
I second all of those points. One reason I always recommend Java, and it's all about preference, right? If somebody's interested in learning Python or JavaScript or something, it's kind of sometimes I call them tools in the tool belt, right? You need more than a hammer to build a house. You need all kinds of tools, and programming languages are like those tools, right? So the great thing about Java is that it's an incredibly versatile tool, and hey, Christina, thanks for joining. Um, it's
Hello.
it, Java's been the most widely used programming language on earth for a long time and continues to be. Although some other languages are starting to creep up on it a little bit, but like you said, it's evolving. So one of the nice things about Java is that with each new major release, it evolves and becomes more modern, right? So even though Java was originally came around in like the mid '90s, right, and they were trying to create a language that you could, it's called write once, run anywhere. And they were thinking about putting it in places like microwaves and remote controllers and stuff like that. That was the original purpose of Java. But right around the same time, the internet was coming up, and people realized that they could use the JVM, which is that the Java virtual machine is basically what actually translates our Java code into machine code. And they realized like this would be a perfect opportunity to use the JVM so that we can have sophisticated websites, right? That are more than just a static page. And ever since then, it's just been evolving and evolving and evolving and evolving. And it's kind of become like this standard language. Like everybody kind of has to know some Java because it's everywhere. And like you said, too, the community around Java is just massive. It's got this incredibly large user base that's millions of people over the last 20 years that have all added to the open source community. And so it's really neat because if you need to just, let's say I need to send an email or something, I can just, it's not like I need to write all the code from scratch to send that email. I can just download a dependency or add a dependency to my project and basically just say email.send because I can leverage all the other work that these many developers have written before us so that we can write kind of really nice enterprise-grade applications relatively quickly. And lastly, Java is a wonderful language in that it's verbose, right? So once you know Java, it's really easy to go look at Python or go look at PHP or go look at C and just understand them, right? Whereas if you learn, let's say you learn some obscure language like Scala or Kotlin or something like that first, these more concise languages that actually where you have to write less code to do the same thing, and they kind of enforce less rules. When you move over to a language like Java, you might be confused because there's so much more going on, right? So for that reason, I always say Java is a great first language for people to learn because it's a really good base layer.
Mhm.
Cool.
You're right.
So tell us about like why are you excited to run this course? What in your just for in your own when you're just when you're looking forward to this upcoming course in Mexico, what is it about you that excites you?
Well, the whole experience, like, it's like I will be traveling to a new country, a really nice country. I will be enjoying all the nice things there. I heard about cenotes and so all the nice stuff there. And at the same time, I will have the ability to be teaching, like, uh, transfer all the knowledge and see how the people learn it because it's quite nice to learn to teach to people who really likes to learn, so you can see them evolving and some of them getting better than you and so
Yeah.
it will be nice.
One of my favorite it's a little bit of both, just like you mentioned. For me, one of my favorite moments is those aha moments, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, but it's so neat when you're working with someone through this complex software engineering material, and they're confused. It's difficult, and then all of a sudden, like, just the light turns on and they've got it. And as soon and it's this empowering feeling too. You're like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can do what, and especially by the end of the course, when you see students who have gone from no idea basically how any of this stuff works to being able to create their own Spring-based API that uses an object relational mapping framework like Hibernate, and databases that are out on the cloud and deploy their stuff to servers. And And then at that moment, you can kind of be like, so what do you want to build? You know, because you can build whatever you want to build. Like what topics are you interested in? What data sets are out there? Like what would you like to analyze? And it's fun to that transformation is so fun. And then obviously being in Mexico and diving into cenotes and snorkeling and all that kind of stuff is an added bonus. And I should just mention, and for those of you who have just joined, I'm Ryan, this is Roy, and we're discussing our upcoming Java Software Engineering Bootcamp at Playa del Carmen, Mexico, that starts in September. And one question that we always get is, like, aren't I going to be distracted? Why would you go to Mexico to learn how to code? Or why would you go somewhere else? And the answer to that, it was a hypothesis for us at first, but we had this hypothesis that when you remove people from their day-to-day distractions, you remove them from, you know, all the birthdays and the family dinners and work and all the other things that could be distracting to them. And we go to a place like Playa del Carmen, Mexico. For the first couple of days, sure, everyone's excited and everyone wants to go do the things and kind of walk around town. But then it ends up, it's just you and this cohort of people that are all there for the same reason. And you become like best friends, and you're there for 2 months, and your only objective is to learn how to code, and you're all there together doing it. And it actually becomes like this hyper-focused environment and experience where that you're hanging out with these people all day, every day, and you're all there for the same reason. You're all really motivated to learn how to code, and it's incredibly productive. So we were hoping, that was our hope when we started this company. We started these, you know, remote boot camps, and right away after the first couple of days in our first course, we realized that our hypothesis was going to be correct, and it's been really neat ever since. And student after student after student kind of echoed that same sentiment, where I've been saying that I would have never been able to get this far and focus this much on this material if I was just at home. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the answer to why would I go to Mexico to learn how to code. So let's talk about the kind of projects that students will build in class. So, you know, we like to play in our courses. We like to play to our instructor's strengths, right? So some of the final projects, some of the final technologies in the course that I lead, because I also lead a Java course for CodingNomads, might be a little different than Roy's specialty and strength, and that's a good thing because there's so many technologies out there, and we really want to be introduced and exposed to all of them. So, Roy, if you could just tell us a little bit about you know, what you hope and plan to cover in the course and kind of some of the technologies that you guys will be discussing.
Well, basically, first to introduce the language itself, like all the basics, how to write anything in Java, what does it mean, how it works. After that, as well, introduce the tools that we will use, like IntelliJ or Gradle or some other tools that we will be using during the course. They are really nice tools, and you will love them. As well, some kind of high-level details like architecture or good practices, some principles to write the code well, so all your coworkers will love you instead of hate you.
Yeah, that's
because of the code you write.
It's really important. There's a big, and you can tell the difference between an amateur developer and a professional developer because a professional developer writes clean code. It's well commented, well documented. It's very important.
Yeah, so that's important. That's a really important part that nowadays is getting even more power between the companies when they are recruiting, and between the co-workers, the people you work with. As well, the testing, because when you write some software, the software is evolving, so you need to have some insurance, some security that what you write is not getting broken by the next change, or by you, or by someone else. So testing is really important in the software. So you have to write some test automated that when you do some change in the code, they will run automatically and check that you didn't break anything. So it's as well reducing a lot of pain from you and a lot of pain in your head. You don't have to worry about that. As well, we will. Mhm.
Oh, I was going to say, do you use JUnit as your primary testing framework, or what testing framework do you use?
But yeah, uh, there are some different levels of testing, but one of the most important are the unit testing. So that you have to test like every code, like a unit. A unit should be like, you can interpret it if you don't know anything about coding, like one page that it has some meaningful thing. Like it's called a class for those who know. So you have some methods, some kind of inputs and outputs to try, and you make sure that this class is working. After that, you can make some tests that some classes are working together, and then as well you can make some test that is like the final user. So make an automated test, uh, like in the movies, like the mouse is moving itself, the letters are writing by itself. So you can
Right,
see that the whole thing like a final user test. And this is
right.
important too, because it's what really how the user will use the application.
Got it. Got it. Cool.
For
Nice. So I,
example, or some other framework that we will see during the course.
okay, cool. Nice. So then beyond after I jumped in there asking about JUnit, but you were discussing the various technologies and kind of things that you'll be covering in the course.
Yeah. So as well, well, you can program, but you have to store the data because all the programs or most of the programs, most of the applications and the web pages are storing data. So we will cover as well some databases, the most typical, the connection between the database and the codes. So uh, how to make an easy integration between them. For
Right.
that, there are some frameworks. We will explain some of them. We will know how to do it without frameworks, with frameworks, and then you can choose whatever suits you better. If you want the speed, if you want more long distance, rely on it.
Yeah.
More
Reliability.
reliability, yeah.
Okay.
As well, we will talk about some latest technologies like containerization. That this is like a hot topic now because when you are deploying your applications, uh, you can just think about the programming part, so how your application will work, and just worrying about your business. So what is important for you is like, for example, the user, or if you're making a blockbuster like about the videos, the titles, the renting, you don't care about what computer do you have the server running, what connections do you have between the computers to make. You don't care about the connection to the database. You don't care about the memory because your computer is running. So you don't care about the versions of the JVM or the so you abstract yourself from all this stuff and you just make it in a container. Container is kind of a virtual space in your machine that will take care of all of this, and you only take care of the programming, the more creative part and interesting part for the business.
Well, and the fun part too. Do you,
So apart from that, apart
yeah.
from that, we will as well like cover how to make the cycle of the continuous integration, continuous delivery, all the tools that are for the source control. Like in programming, for those who doesn't know, you are working in some files, like let's say a book, and you are saving the version history of this book. So, for example, if there is a book, release one, release two, release three, release four, like you will have all the pages how they were written in all the versions of the book. So imagine that you are writing the web page about Blockbuster, and then you update something, and then you realize after a month that this is not working as before because we have less users. So you can easily with one command come back to the older version and then iterate again to change it another way. Or if there is a bug, you can easily change it, revert to the changes that they were working. It's quite useful, and everything should work like this. So for
Nice.
software engineering, it's always working like this, and it's nice. uh, then we will see again more high-level architecture, depending on how the students how much they will want to know about this part, because I will try to adapt the course to the people who are assisting. So if they want to know more about programming low level, I would go for low level. If they want to know more high level because they want to separate more uh, from the more low level code, let's say, and maybe like an architect later, a software architect or so, I can tell them more these topics. Um, we will talk as well like the hot topic of microservices, because before they were all monoliths. Well, as well, there were some kind of architectures like microservices architectures, but with another names. But now it's really trendy, these microservices. So we will talk about them, why they are important, why when you should use them and when you should not.
Right.
Mhm. Uh, then
Quick
as
question.
well, hmm?
Will you guys be diving into the Spring framework?
As well, this is like one of the most important frameworks to get stuff done fast and
Right.
in a really good way, like secure way. There is a big community and thousands and thousands of companies. Almost most of the companies right now they are using Spring,
Right.
so it's pretty secure. Is the standard,
Right.
and it allows you to just download something and run it, and you have like a web server running just
Right.
with some clicks, not even writing anything. And then you can personalize it with your stuff, and it's
That's
fun when you
how easy and useful Spring is.
yeah. So you will first be learning how to program something from the zero and so, and then I will tell you like, but you have Spring Framework, and then you hit one button and everything is done, and it's like
Yeah,
but it's nice to understand how it's done and how the language works, how the programs work. So then you will understand the magic that this framework gives.
definitely. And that's we try to talk about that. I try to talk about that in my courses too. Like for instance, before we learn Hibernate or MyBatis or some other ORM framework, I make sure that they fully understand like traditional JDBC connections, because you can't just skip over how it works underneath before you get to use all these fancy tools, right? And
Exactly.
it makes you realize, just like you said, how fancy and fun and kind of useful they are when you have to do it the hard way, the old way first, and then you get to use this new tool that makes it so simple. So unfortunately, we do have to learn the old hard way first, I think, to properly appreciate the new good way. But nice. So any other kind of
Yeah. As well, we will talk about Amazon and the deploying on the cloud. Uh, Normally, nowadays, no one's have servers anymore because the cost of maintaining the room of the servers, all the ventilation, all the servers itself, updating, and you have to have a server administrator just dedicated for that. So, no, not many companies are doing that. They are just externalizing these services. One of the big providers is Amazon, another is Google or Microsoft. So, AWS, the Amazon service for the cloud, is really nice and really easy to use. So we will as well cover how to deploy your applications there in the cloud to have them running, and you don't have to have anything in your machine. You don't have to have any machine for running, any network, anything. So it's
right.
quite comfortable.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of AWS, and and there's other providers out there. Like there's Microsoft has the Azure cloud, Google has their Google Cloud, IBM has a cloud, but AWS by far is the most widely used out there. It kind of dominates the market share for this kind of technology. And what AWS allows us is it basically gives you or me, Roy, and you guys watching, it gives you the same amount of resources that any giant tech company would have. Like if you want to spin up 5,000 servers today, or launch and start 5,000 servers today, you can. If you want a database that's replicated 100 times in data centers all around the world with billions of rows of data and stuff, you can. You can just use AWS to set that stuff up like in 10, 20 minutes. And so there's, you can dig in, there's people at companies whose entire job is managing the AWS infrastructure, because it does get big and complex. So it's not to be overlooked as too simple. But before 10 years ago, or before we had AWS at our fingertips, we would have to actually buy the physical server, or there was kind of a medium. It was called co-locations, where you would rent space on someone else's physical server. But now we basically can just log in and say, I want 3 extra large servers. I'll take that one with extra memory. I'll take this one with extra fast network. And it's kind of like you just get to choose all this infrastructure that you want, just say launch. And it's incredible. And it also starts, and like I said, I'm a major fan of AWS, but it starts for free. They have a free tier. So you can, as we're learning, we can play with all of these services, usually for free or for very little cost, so that we can become comfortable in using them without having to spend money like we're some company that's using these services to make money. And so learning AWS, I think alone, even if you just learned AWS, you would be better off in terms of working for any kind of technology company, because it's so useful and so widely used.
And another advantage is like you have some servers, like I don't know, you have like hired 3 servers, and suddenly comes the sale of winter. So you want to have ability to send to serve the petitions of, I don't know, 1 million people, because on winter you will have a lot of requests. So you can just scale up with some clicks, and you don't have to install any software. They will do it for you. You have your application well structured with your load balancers and everything. It's automatic. So you can scale up and serve to more people only for 1 month, and then reduce your cost. So you don't have to spend more extra money buying new servers.
That's exactly right. And a good example I use to explain that all the time is, let's say that you're like in the States, we have Halloween, or, let's say that you're like a Halloween costume shop or some holiday that only happens once a year. And during that 1 month of the year, your business goes up 100%, or 1,000%. The question is, should I have 10 servers all year round to support the load I get in October? Or should I have 1 server all year round because I have no load or network activity 11 months of the year? Or do I every year need to like go through this massive rebalancing act with all my infrastructure? And with AWS, you don't, because as you mentioned, Roy, they have this auto scaling technology where sometimes you can even pre-configure it, that where when the CPU load or the network load gets over, let's say 70%, it'll automatically clone itself onto a new server, and you'll have 2 servers that are taking those requests. And when those servers hit 70 or 80%, they'll clone again, and it'll just continue to auto scale up as needed. And then it'll auto scale down as needed. So it's like it's a brave new world.
And it's saving money.
Yeah. Cool. So one question that we get all the time, and for those of you guys who have just joined, hi Jamie, hi Jackie. If you have any questions about our courses or for Roy or I, please don't hesitate to reach out. A question we get all the time is what's the difference between server side and client side? And if someone is new to all of this stuff, and they're still just figuring this out, how would you describe the difference between server side engineering and client side engineering, and kind of who should go for which one? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So they're quite different. Like server side is the one that is going to be executed in somewhere else, not in your computer as a user. And the client side is the code that is going to run on your side. So normally in your side, it's going to be the rendering of the pages. So let's say something visual, HTML, CSS, and so, and as well some logic that is going to be JavaScript. And then the server side, it can be any language you don't care about, because the client side is just making petitions to the server side in some middle language, let's say, and they don't need to be in the same language or at all. And the server side is more about performance, about flexibility, about big data, like trying to solve a lot of petitions at the same time. It's normally more complex, more fun, because more complex means more fun. And it has less to do with the aspect, with the UI.
Right. Yeah. So, and kind of like to chime in there a little bit, one thing that I say for people is if you're interested in chewing through and analyzing billions of rows of data and let's say there's all of these data sets out there and APIs, which are application RESTful APIs, application programming interfaces, which allow us to just reach out to the world and ask the world for all this incredible data. Like you can get data on animal migrations for the last 50 years, or on on human migrations or refugees or climate or the human genome, or there's these incredible data sets that are all around us. And if your desire is to be able to go through data sets like that and do all kinds of analytics and build like a data architecture that allows you to kind of make sense of all this insane, incredible data, server-side engineering is probably for you. If you're more design oriented, like you like the idea of kind of making something look visually nice and kind of have a nice user interface or user experience, then you're probably talking about more client-side front-end engineering. Which is your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But JavaScript is making inroads into the server-side stuff now, so it's getting blurrier and blurrier. So another quick question, and this I'll definitely be able to chime in here, but what's your by the end of the course? So our courses are 4 months long. The first month is online; it's a prep course, and we basically move through all the Java fundamentals pretty quickly. What is a variable? What is loops and control statements, conditional statements, exception handling, I/O, so input, output, how to interact with different files, databases, multi-threading, kind of all your Java fundamentals we cover in the first month. And then the months 2 and 3 are together in person, and they'll be in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, with Roy. And myself and Kit will also be down there for the first couple of weeks, just for fun, because we love it down there and to come say hi. And so months 2 and 3 are together in person in Playa del Carmen, and this is where you build and build and build onto your knowledge, right? So I consider it kind of like we just, as soon as everybody is mostly comfortable with the last topic, we add on another layer of complexity and of functionality. And we keep going all the way through. And then the final month 4 online, again, is time for everyone to be able to build kind of portfolio projects and larger projects. Because in class, as the course progresses, we're able to work on bigger and larger projects, but we never work for more than, let's say, 2 or 3 days on any one project, right, while we're in course. And then that's been in my courses though. Roy, it's subject to change upon an instructor a little bit for however they think they can best deliver the material. But the final month, the 4th month online, is like a final project where people get to work on one project for a whole month or more. So oftentimes our students continue working on the project for 5, 6, 7 weeks. And it's fun because it allows you to pull all this information that you've learned over the last 3 months and apply it into one book. And the goal being, a lot of people ask, what will I be ready for a job after this course? Or will I be ready, will I be qualified as a chemical engineer after this course? And the question is yes and no. So, and I'll just kind of answer this one because it's one we get all the time, which is what we've seen, our experience, because we've been running these courses for about 2 years now, and what we've seen is when someone comes into one of our courses, really hungry, really motivated, they've already been trying to learn for months or more. They've been doing the online tutorials, they've done all the free code courses, etc. And they've kind of gotten to this plateau where they're having trouble making it further. And they come and join a course like ours, they're really hungry, they're motivated, and they work as, they ask all the questions, they do all the concepts. After 4 months, we've seen again and again and again people just leave our course and go get jobs. And it happens all the time. And it's really neat. That's like the biggest win. Our job here doesn't end until people achieve their goals, our students achieve their goals. But to be really honest and forthright and clear with everyone, that isn't the case for every student that comes to our course. Some students come to our course and they need a little more time after the course ends before they're actually ready to get a job. Because it's very difficult to teach everything they need to do in 3 or 4 months to get a job. What we really try to do is teach people how to think like a software engineer, how to solve these problems, how to be able to teach themselves anything they're going to need to know, and how to become a productive software engineer. And sometimes after leaving the course, the best course of action, we always continue to work with our students, is to continue studying and say like, okay, are we strong? Like, how do we? Let's say there's 10 topics. All of them are very important for entry level engineering. Are you very comfortable on each one of those? If the answer is no, then it means that some more studying will be necessary, and that's totally okay. That's totally normal. But just so you guys know, our goal in this 4 months of this course is to make you ready, as ready as possible to get a job, to succeed in the interview, and succeed on the job software engineering. So just wanted to put that out there. Any other thoughts there that Roy you'd like to add on that topic?
Well, the good thing is that you can do whatever you want for a project. So that's where you realize like you make yourself with more, I don't know, like with more enthusiasm, with more illusion. So it's a nice part as well.
Yeah, and I should note there that what we try to do in our courses is, of course, for the first month or two, it's all fundamentals and concepts and technologies that everybody has to know. But as soon as we get kind of into the latter half of the course or class, if some of our students have a specific interest, then we absolutely encourage them to follow that interest, right? And so if one person, like you were saying, is more interested in low level kind of architectural code, like we'll support that. If somebody's really interested in more like, for instance, MVC, model view controller framework, they want to build more web applications, then we support that. And so what we really try to do, especially in the latter half of the class, is encourage people and facilitate people to really go after the topics and the concepts that they're interested in. And then in the final project, of course, students get to choose the project that they work on. Oftentimes students group up. So we have 3 or 4 students working on as a group on each project. And we've got some fun ones, like we've got one of the final projects that our current cohort is working on right now is a disaster relief kind of organization web application for Japan, because one of our students was from Japan, and they've had all these earthquakes and tsunamis and all this stuff. And she noticed that after every disaster, there's no central place where you can figure out like where the evacuation centers are, where people can request help, where people can offer donations, where people can, so her goal, and she's working with a couple of friends from her university in Japan and another friend in the States to help build like to create from scratch a disaster relief service that will try to centralize all of its information. And she's not just doing it as a fun project. She plans to deploy it. Like she plans to do it online, and because she thinks it's really necessary and that it'd be really helpful. And I love that idea. It's so neat. Like as soon as someone starts to understand how to code, how to share information, how to use databases, how to make all this interactive and available to the world at large, all of a sudden these really interesting projects that solve real world problems can be achieved. Super. So let's jump into, let's talk about Mexico for a minute. So we ran a course in Playa del Carmen, Mexico last fall. And Roy, this is your first time there, correct?
Yeah.
So you're going to be, it's wonderful. Basically, the co-working space where we work is called Nest, and it's right in downtown Playa del Carmen. It's a block from the beach. Really wonderful people there. We became great friends. We went out singing karaoke with them. We celebrated Dia de los Muertos with them, which is a beautiful holiday in Mexico. And all around Playa del Carmen are these cenotes that you've mentioned. So we're kind of talking about stuff outside the course now, and why Mexico, why it's so fun. These cenotes in the whole Yucatan Peninsula, there's not a single river that runs above ground. So the Yucatan Peninsula doesn't have a single river on it because they're all underground. And it's this limestone, I think it's called karst topography for all you geologists out there, where all of this water is running underground, and it creates these tunnels and caves that stretch for thousands of miles or thousands of kilometers. And every now and again, the ground will sink. There'll be a sinkhole, right? Which cenote technically kind of means sinkhole. But what you see when you look down into these sinkholes is these incredibly amazing like grottos of incredibly beautiful blue clear water with like these plants and trees hanging down, and you can go snorkeling in them and scuba diving in them, and it's phenomenal. And they're everywhere. There's hundreds of thousands of cenotes around the Yucatan Peninsula. And when we were there last year, we would go swimming in cenotes almost every weekend. And we several times we got a big bus for the whole group, and we would just tour around the Yucatan Peninsula, going from one snorkel spot, cenote, tacos, snorkel, cenote, tacos. And absolutely phenomenal. The people down in Playa del Carmen and in Mexico in general are absolutely incredible. Our experiences there have been so kind, and we've been felt welcome. And yeah, I can't wait to go back. So as I mentioned, Kim and I are going to join Roy down in Playa del Carmen for the first couple weeks of the upcoming course, which starts September 25th in Playa del Carmen.
Mhm.
And I'm really looking forward to going back. Roy, have you done any in your research or in your preparation to get down there? Is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to?
Sorry, can you repeat?
In your research and getting prepared to go down to Playa del Carmen, is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, scuba diving and the cenotes, the food, and relaxing as well in the beach. And probably I want to go to some excursions around the near places in Mexico. There are nice pyramids that there can be a weekend excursion there.
Nice.
It's really nice, like all pyramids that you can see from the top, a lot of nice landscapes and so.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and getting to know as well the culture there.
Right.
I never been to Mexico, so
Yeah. And it's your first time to Mexico?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you're already a native Spanish speaker, so that'll help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, I can speak the language there. Not like when I went to Poland and when I arrived there, Polish was so hard.
So do you speak a bit of Polish now?
Very little.
Very good. Okay, so one last question before we kind of wrap up here. Another question that we get all the time from entry-level developers and from our own graduates is, let's say after the course they want to continue building, or whether people have come to one of our courses or not, they're kind of entry-level, they're learning, and they're trying to figure out like how, let's use the case that you just finished one of our courses and you're very comfortable in Java, Spring, databases, AWS, like you get it. You can build software now. But they ask like, what can I do to build my resume? What can I do to strengthen my portfolio, for instance, to help me get a job? And everyone's got kind of a different, some different advice here. And oftentimes it's an, you know, collection of that advice that kind of is the general best path to follow. But what advice would you give an entry-level developer who, like I said, knows all the basics, knows all the stuff, they know how to write software now, but they're just kind of like, what do I do next?
Well, first, don't worry about the university titles because they don't mean anything. It's like they really value the experience. So if you get experience in, can be this course like the bootcamp, they don't look at the official university titles. They just look at what you know. So don't worry about that. And search for a job that you like the product, not only like a job. And you are a software developer, so you will have a lot of offers. Don't worry. Try to search for a nice product that you will feel comfortable because you will be programming about this topic. So if you like motos, try to get an application or a web page about motos, or if you like mobiles, about something like that. So uh, try to find a job that you like the topic with nice people. And yeah, as well, it's nice to keep the work like learning at home about what you care and trying to make your side projects at home because you are getting better and discovering new things. As well as when you are in the job, it's really nice because you have a lot of people who teach you and you can learn from. But once you are like 1 year already in a job, it's better to keep your side projects as well running because it's when you learn more than what you are doing in your job. Because in your job depends on the job, but normally it's like you learn a lot, but it's always in the same direction. So if you are doing side projects, you can choose whatever direction you want. Yeah, you will enjoy it if you like problem solving and creativity.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I completely agree. In keeping the side projects going. You know, as you mentioned, if you at work, you'll continue to learn and learn and learn all these things, but they'll all be focused just in that one direction of whatever it is that your company does. So if when you're already working, just challenging yourself from time to time and say like, I'm gonna take some Python tutorials this weekend. I'm gonna check out this new framework I haven't used. I'm gonna try to build a little demo application that's like a proof of concept of this idea that I've got. And I continuously challenging yourself and to do that kind of stuff, I completely agree, is so important, whether you already have a job or not. And I would also say if you don't already have a job, that's exactly what you should be doing. Like, okay, what am I interested in? And I tell this story all the time, but a good buddy of mine is really interested in astronomy, and he ended up building just for fun on his own time, he built a social network for astronomers where they get to compare observations of stars and planets and so forth that they've made, and like points that are associated. You can upload a picture, and he did that just for fun. And then a few months after he built that, he saw that there was this really cool observatory that was hiring a software engineer. And he applied and he got the job because why, when, you know, if you've got multiple applicants and one of them, and you're an astronomy company, you're an observatory, and one of your applicants has just built an astronomical social, you know, network for fun, clearly that's the person you're going to hire, right? Because this person is motivated, self-motivated, they're interested about the topic. And so just continuing to push forward on stuff that you're interested in and build projects that you're interested in and kind of push your boundaries of what you know and continuously try to be learning is what I recommend for students.
As well, another thing that why I would recommend Java is because you can make Android applications because the Android framework is written in Java, so you can write any application in. It's quite similar. You just have to learn some architecture about how you should build it, but it's the same language, so it's gonna be easy. I have
Cool.
a couple of applications, and yeah, most of them were side projects. Like I was just doing boards, so I encourage you to do after the job, after the course, to try to do ones just for fun.
And then do you think, so have you created a few Android apps, you said?
Yeah.
So do you think in your course, just for fun, that you'll be able to like even just take one afternoon towards the end of the course and run everybody through like, okay, now you know Java, now you know all this stuff. Now let me show you how you would create an app.
Sure, of course.
Yeah,
And if they want to focus more on that instead of another topic, I can do more than one lesson about that.
yeah, that's great. We've actually been speaking to a potential student, and she was asking that exact question. And so that's great to hear. Great. Well, Roy, we've been chatting for almost an hour now, which is great. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for everyone who joined. Again, we're Coding Nomads, and we're teaching an upcoming course, Java server-side software engineering course in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. It starts September 25th. The online prep course actually starts in about 2 weeks. Or, you know, we like people to have at least 4+ weeks to work through that online material. So if you're interested in joining and haven't already reached out, please feel free to reach out. There's still plenty of time, but the registration deadline is approaching. And Roy, it's been a real pleasure to speak with you, and thank you for taking the time and answering all of our questions. And any final thoughts before we part?
Just for those who will join, it's gonna be really fun. Programming is quite fun. It's a nice job, and learning in such a paradise like Playa del Carmen, I think is a privileged thing.
Yeah, it definitely.
Yeah. So thank you a lot as well for joining, and thank you, Ryan, for having me here.
Great. Well, enjoy the rest of your night in Barcelona, and we'll chat soon. And if you've got any questions, any of you guys watching now or later, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. You can reach us at CodingNomads.co. I'm Ryan at CodingNomads.co, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye.